Okay, it's now being recorded, so please
Alrighty.
start.
So my topic was HTML5 tags. Let me share my screen. Share. Okay. Being slow. Hide that. So, let's see. Slideshow. I like PowerPoint. PowerPoint's fun. I just
So,
focused on video, audio, and Canvas because that's what I did when I turned mine in, and he gave me full credit. So I didn't think we needed to bother with any of the rest of them, at least for that objective. So in the video um, tag, the syntax is video, and then you put width, and then the number in parentheses is how big you want it to be wide. And then height with a number, and controls. You put the controls in there, then the user will have video controls so they can pause, stop, rewind. Good stuff. And then, you can have the file source for more than one source. You just put the primary source on top, and then secondary sources down lower. And you have the file name goes after source, then type equals video slash MP4 if it's an MP4, or if it's an OGG, then you put OGG. And then these are the different um, video types that are supported by the different browsers. Not all of them support every type. Looks like Internet Explorer is the least inclusive, and Chrome and Firefox are the most inclusive. Oh, it looks like Opera's got them all too. So let's see. Audio tag, pretty similar to the video tag, that the file type is a little different because they generally aren't the same type. Um, in my example, the audio file I found was an MP4, or is an I don't remember. I'll show you when I do my thing, but it wasn't an MP3. And I ended up, I think, putting MP4 as the type because I think it was a M4A or something was what the file extension was. So I was a little worried about that because I wasn't sure, because it wasn't listed on W3 Schools as one of the supported formats. But then I did a little more research, and it said that if you're going to make a new sound file, it should be an M4A, if that's the extension I remember properly. And so I decided to just try and see if it would work, and it did. And so I was like, woohoo, it works. I didn't mention this on the video one, but whatever you type at the bottom after your sources will display. If the video or audio isn't supported, it'll display that text. And then you have the closing tag. So Canvas, you need to have a thing up in top in the Canvas tags. Give it an ID name, width and height, and then you can assign style attributes to it if you want to. And then the text for if it's not supported, closing tag, and then you have to put what's to go in the canvas goes in the JavaScript section. The example that I found used var c and var c txt, I think, if I remember correctly, but I thought it was too cryptic. I don't like cryptic variables, so I used words for mine. Um, this line, it tells the canvas where to start. So you start at 0, 0, and then you're moving to 200, 100. It's like a coordinate grid. And this line of code tells it to draw a line. There's more that you could do, I think, with it than draw lines. But this particular code will draw a diagonal line across the screen. And then those are my sources. They're all from W3 Schools. And over here, I've got my code. Let me tell it to run. I don't have it open right now in my browser. Come on, run. Run. So what I did was I was feeling really paranoid about copyright infringement, and I couldn't find an audio file I liked. So I recorded my own audio file. And then I tried to use my own video file, but it wouldn't play when I uploaded it onto GitHub. It played when I did it in my Notepad++. Once it was all up on GitHub, it wouldn't play the video. And so I was like, okay. So I went and found a free video from one of those places you can get free media from. So I've got this sound file. Yeah. We don't need to listen to my bad violin playing. I learned to play when I was in elementary school, and I haven't played in like 20 years. So I was like, I just recorded something so I'd have something to. And this is Cat falling asleep.
I wish we can hear it actually.
Oh, you
There
couldn't hear it?
must be something.
I
No,
have to
no.
hide my headphones.
Yeah, must be something.
Can you hear that?
Okay, a little bit, yeah.
It's because my speakers are turned really far down at the moment. I have to for you to hear them, I think. So then this is just a video of a cat falling asleep, and I used the canvas to draw a star. So I've got the code for that here. Let's see, here's my audio tag, the text I put there, and then the source file that I made. See, it's an M4A, but then the audio type is MP4 because it's the audio component of an MP4, like you would have for our video, but it's audio. And then my video right here. Those are actually pretty simple to the code. This was a little trickier, making a star in the canvas. You only have to do the context stroke once. I was wondering about that when I coded it, whether I was going to have to put it after every where I told it to move to. But I decided to try it with it just once the first time, and it worked. So I'm like, okay. I thought I might have to do it after each one, but I didn't. And I had to adjust it because the first time I did it, the star was like smushed. It was too tall and it didn't look right. So I had to change where the lines were going to make it look better. And that is my working example. So, any questions?
What I noticed with the canvas and the line drawing is actually it's not that trivial to change the color. You know, I wanted to draw one line which is blue and one line which is red. And so then what I would normally do is like make a blue line and then change the stroke style to red and then make a red line. But however, both of my lines would be red.
Interesting.
And then I found further, and I had to use actually a command to begin the path. And then once I do the stroke, then that actually kind of ends the path, and that remains in one color. And then I can change the color to something else and then begin path again and then do the stroke.
So if I had put context stroke up here, I could have changed the color for my other lines.
Yeah, well, let's try. Let's play. If you wanna try this, just stroke style. Okay.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
And then...
Okay, and then okay, but in the first, let's say that you want two of your lines to be red, and now everything is yellow, so you are using this FF00 pattern. Okay, so now we want to change this to red. So you can simply say red even.
Okay.
equals red. Yeah, that's also one work. Okay, then try. Let's see what you will get.
It'll probably do. Whoa, did all of them.
Yeah, you see, yeah, that's the problem. That's the
Interesting.
problem. Okay, so what you need to do now is before this first stroke style, put a command which is begin path, context dot begin path, path, with yes, like that. Okay, and but should be function call with a yeah, that's the one. And then after the then again here, yeah. No end path. Stroke is automatically ending the path. You need to begin another one.
I need to begin path.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took out one of my lines.
I don't know what happened with the yellow one. Maybe add additional line. That from 56, just move it up together with the other one.
What do you mean?
Line, delete that line. Delete that line, and then line 56. Move it to become line 53. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah.
That one is, but now there's. I have an idea. I think I know what it is. I'm gonna try it. Where is it? There it is. Not 250.
So you need to move back. Yes, that's correct. That's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So like that was the tricky part with this. I also tried to see if I can use this WebGL API. So because we are here getting the context just to write to draw 2D images, but what if you want 3G or whatever? And then you need to use this WebGL. But then I found that it's really, really complicated, and what you really need to do is pass not instructions, but entire programs written, I think, in some dialect of C language or something like that to the shader module of your browser, and then it will write some, draw some kind of 3D image.
Okay.
But that's way too much work, so.
Alrighty. Let's see, how do I...
Okay.
Share my screen.
Hey, that was great.
You already unshared it? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Cool. Let's see. I'll try to share my screen. Because I am the next one.
Yeah. And because you're the one doing the video, you'll have to click on your own picture, but the video will follow your screen too.
Okay. I'm sharing it now. Okay, so I have prepared some presentation as well, but for these final CSS topics, what I saw is people are just doing the more or less the same thing which I already did like 2 weeks ago, and just putting some basics about CSS3 transitions on animations and stuff like that, and just giving different examples. So this is the approach I took. The last time I had examples with like this, and where this yellow div is being enlarged and reduced. But now I have some image manipulations and stuff like that. So just to remind ourselves about the basics. So what are these transitions and animations all about? Is where is my presentation? Yeah. So just a changing of any CSS property, but instead of happening instantaneously, we can say that that change will happen over some period of time, and we can adjust the duration and acceleration and also the deceleration of the time at the end of the event. And all of this can be customized. And I'm not going too much into customization here, because I honestly don't understand why do I need this at this moment. I mean, is it really important for me to see my yellow square being accelerated, then linear, then decelerated, whatnot? But once I discover the sense in it, maybe I'll do some customizations. And the key point here is how to do it with the JavaScript. So you need to just initiate some change by, for example, adding a class to elements class list. But in this case, I did for my demo, I did use style object, which is part of the JavaScript API. And now we are at the code samples. So here are actually two images. There is the image of flowers, and there is an image behind it. And I can show one or the other by manipulating the opacity. So this part of CSS is actually just there to say that both of the images should have the same upper left coordinates, so they overlap each other. And once I achieve this, then script starts execute on the page load and acquires the two images through the get element by ID, and defines opacity of one to be 1 and opacity of the second image to be 0. So the one with opacity 1 means this one is visible. Okay, so maybe I'll just reload the page. Okay, and then on the click of the button, this function is executed, and here I define transition of 2 seconds for both of the images, and I just use this ternary operator to kind of toggle the opacity. So what the image that had opacity 0 will have 1, otherwise it had 1, so it will become 0. And also the same for the second image. And the net effect is when I click to change opacity, then it changes to this cannon scene and then back to flowers with this transition. Okay, and the next example is a bit more complicated because the yeah. Okay, because it has to use events. And so again, we have the two same images, but this time I'm not manipulating with their opacity, I'm manipulating with their position. So you have a kind of card shuffling effect. So if I shuffle, then flowers will go above the cannon shot, and then and so forth. So how is this achieved? Basically, you need to monitor when the one transition will end, and then once that transition is finished, then you need to say, I want to do the next transition. So here is the again the button, and on click it executes the function called shuffle, and this is the function which at the beginning resets any previous transition. So to reset transition, you just give it a 0-second duration. Everything is done by manipulating style object here. So style.transition duration is 0 seconds. And then I decide which image will be visible by controlling the Z index style property, and it can have value, any value, even negative, but images with or elements with a higher Z index have a priority. They are in the foreground, and the with lower Z index are in the background. So I used Z index is 0 and 1 and 0. And here, this part of code just flips them. So what was 0 will become 1 and vice versa. So I decide which image to show and which image to hide. Okay, the next bit of code is this one, where I'm actually using add event listener to arm the transition and handler. And I am on only one, and this is this function. And what this function will call will depend on the value of this variable. So at the beginning, the next transition, I'm starting the slide out, and this is this function here. And once this is finished, then I will start the slide back event. Okay, and then this one here. And then once the slide back is finished, then I will say hide slide is the next event, and this finally will remove event listener. So in this way, each event, when it completes, defines what will be the next after it. So first is slide out, means my slide will jump out, and once that is end, then slide back, and then finally remove the event handler. And this is how it works. This is, I found this to be very tricky, and because you might be surprised what actually are the events that you are getting fired or triggered when the transition ends. And it can be more than one event. Maybe I should demonstrate some of that. So what is interesting, and what I recommend if you deal with this, to monitor the events here from the event handler by simply putting console.log event. And I click on it. Okay, so you see that actually it was fired twice. So once it was fired to pull out, and once to pull it back. Okay, which is what is expected. But for some effects, I had unexpected results, and let's demonstrate this. So, for example, I can say that image show style dot margin equals 0. So this syntax is the same as if we are defining the CSS margin. Okay, so we start from margin 0, but then let's change it here in the slide out. 10 pixels. Okay, let's see if that's gonna work. Shuffle. You see the margin is changed, so that's fine. But transition at this moment changes the property left here, this one. Transition, so monitors the change left, but what if I add the margin as well? So in this case, I will just comment this out. And that means everything will basically be monitored. I will just define everything. Okay, and so now you can see that there is all a bunch of events being triggered. For example, margin, although I change only one parameter, but there is actually margin bottom, left, right, and top. So I got 4 events triggered for the margin. Yeah. And even Z index also was triggered. So you have to be very careful and maybe debug your transition code by putting such kind of, I would say, console.log instructions into your event handler to see actually what is happening. And then being more specific is better than being general in this case. So it is better to say which transition property you will monitor by using this command than to use the general transition style.transition equals sometime. Otherwise, you if you don't follow this, then you will do lots of debugging, which happened to me. Okay, so that's all I have for this case. Any questions?
Nope.
I do not have questions about that.
I did was wondering, Brad was supposed to do transforms. And I was wondering, do you want to see my examples that I did for that? Like
Sure.
what I turned in? I also,
Sure.
okay, I'll share my screen. So over here, it's pretty simple. All I did was program some objects and I don't trigger the transforms, they're just automatically. That's so this is how I did it, the style.
Was transform something that we needed to do, or is that just part of this last 3?
It is objective 12. Designing, defining, and triggering CSS3 transforms.
Oh my
transform
gosh.
is basically a transition. It's like the transitions are timed transforms. So it's like you're doing the thing that you do for a transition, except you don't give it a time frame. It just does it.
You know what's super funny? is I looked at these 3 assignments, and for this whole semester, I have thought that it was 3. I did not even see difference between transitions, transforms, and animations. Like my brain just lumped it in there and they were the same thing. So now I feel a little dumb.
It's fine.
It's cool. I did an animation one already, so that's fine.
So then my animation just had a simple one that moved down, and then sprite. So
Okay, I like that. Walking Man.
yeah, and I drew all those images in Paint, and I looked at someone else's sprite sheet so I could figure out where to place his arms and his feet so that it would look like he was walking when it was animated. But I didn't want to use someone else's sprite sheet because I worry about copyright infringements and stuff, so I try not to use other people's stuff when I can avoid it. So that's what I did for my 2 animations and for my transforms. And I actually had really basic like the animations, not the animations, the transitions ones. I just had the transitions on there. I didn't explain anything. I just had them on there. So those are my transitions. So
okay. So you got that graded already, right?
yes, and I got full credit.
You got the fluency.
Simple stuff.
Okay.
So crap. All right. Hey, can you guys look at this real quick? So thank you for that. That actually clears up a lot for me because I was very confused. This is what I did. I did use somebody else's sprite sheet. Well, I used their sprites and I made my own sprite sheet.
Okay.
So I went here and actually made this sprite sheet.
Yes.
Oh, hold on. Can you see this here?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So basically, I have some animations for blinking here, and then walking here.
Okay.
And so, like, what she does is she just blinks. See, and when I click on her, she starts walking. Does that seem pretty? And then I click on her again, she stops and she just goes back to blinking. Does that? And this is my code. So basically, I just set up like a normal thing, and I used background. Is this how you did it? You did a background shift with animation?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Because I just used a big sprite sheet, and then I basically had it like slide the frame over in steps, and then positioned it different. Okay, cool.
That's how you do it.
Now that I know that it's animation and I can have to do transforms and transitions, that makes this a lot easier, which is great. So, all right. I don't have any questions. Those your examples look great. So that cleared up a lot for me.
My main reason for wanting to show you my examples was to alleviate the stress over thinking it needed to be really elaborate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because mine were very basic, and he was fine with them. So don't get overly stressed about having elaborate examples.
Okay. So
I think we only have a week left to turn it all in.
Yeah, it's due by the 27th, so it's a week from today. And then we have to have our app idea by Monday.
Oh gosh.
So I was gonna do like a whole big menu system thing for this, and so I started doing it, and then I was like, this is gonna take forever. So I'm glad that cleared up because that was gonna take a while.
Larry, what did you submit for that?
I submitted the link to the
yeah,
stage.
but you there was this one where we need to do the event detection for mobile standard JavaScript events, including those for mobile devices. On touch, begin, on load.
Okay, that's this one.
Yeah.
This was my standard JavaScript event. So this changes when I click on it. These ones are mouse. So I'm going to refresh this. This one's a mouse over. This is a mouse out. On click. And then this one's a touch. So those are my events.
Okay. what worries me in this is I did make an example which uses the mobile events, but in order to really test them, one needs to have either mobile device, or you need to go into the Chrome and then change your settings so it thinks like it's a mobile device, and then the mouse movement can emulate your finger movements.
I actually
So
have a touch screen, so I just touch it.
yeah, okay. Okay, but I'm just worried that the instructor might not have all these things, and then so how deeply I need to explain, you need to like switch into this particular mode on Chrome in order to test that my thing is working.
Well, I didn't explain anything, and he gave me full credit. He didn't say anything wasn't working.
Yeah, I've just been hitting like the F12 for Chrome, and it'll take you into that mode, and then that's how I did mine. I don't know if that's ungraded yet though, so.
Okay. Maybe
I
I'll
don't know
just
why,
write.
but I'm like fascinated by this touch thing. I was like, where did you go?
Okay, cool. Okay. So let's close the meeting.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll send a link to a recording. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good
Thank you so
night.
much.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Have a good
guys.
night.
Bye.
Bye.